So this is all very cool, me getting an opportunity to fill in for Colin Cowherd on The Herd. But I got to say, this is also pretty surreal. As I was told, I get to introduce and welcome to the set one of the greatest NFL reporters and commentators, NBA, we're just doing NFL. I'll ask her about my NFL totals. She can do anything. Rachel Nichols, it is
Rachel,
an honor to have you on The Herd.
This is awesome.
This is a sideline reporter for Monday Night Football. I covered plenty of football.
That's true. That's true. I was just thinking NBA. Well, do you have a favorite over-under?
My over-under is we make it through this segment.
Okay.
That's good.
I'll take the over.
Although our relationship is not off to a good start. I'm sorry to inform you.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
you don't drink coffee.
Oh, my
and I
God.
don't trust you now.
I understand. How many cups of coffee a day for you?
I'm not at 4-cup level, like 1 to 2, but just the not need for it at all.
I mean, I'm not saying I wake up happy or chipper.
I just,
All right, well.
Just saying. Let's see if you can win me over during the segment.
Sounds good. I'll do my absolute best. So the reporting around the Lakers has been so fascinating to me because LeBron said he had no impact or input on his podcast co-host getting hired in JJ Redick. And then he said, Dalton Knecht was my favorite college basketball player other than Bronny. And then I watched the NBA draft, and Dalton Knecht and Bronny are both on the Lakers. Why the need to try to convince everybody that LeBron doesn't have a huge input and impact in what the Lakers are doing this offseason?
I mean, they've changed their tune a little bit. First, it was, he has nothing to do with this coaching search. Then it was he didn't directly participate or talk to JJ in the coaching search, but he talked to the front office a little bit about it, right? So there's been a little back and forth. But look, LeBron has taken so much flack over the years for, being the general manager of his teams or, he should really be the player coach or any of that stuff. I understand the desire to sort of stand apart a little bit. And by the way, that gives him some plausible deniability because if this team doesn't do well this season, if JJ doesn't do well as coach, or if the roster isn't able to measure up the way it wasn't this past year, not LeBron's fault.
But it's not plausible, right? Like we all agree. We all think that, which is fine. He's 40 years old. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's no other franchises around the NBA or the NFL that don't have a big star having a huge say in what they were going to do. I mean, James Harden, everything went through him in Houston, right? We've seen that over and over again. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think that it's something that needs to be hidden. I just think that it gets so blown out of proportion sometimes that that's kind of what they're trying to mitigate a little bit. But of course, guess what? If he didn't want JJ Redick to be the coach of the team, JJ Redick would not be the coach of the team. So there's lots of ways to signal your pleasure or displeasure with something.
And we know that he said it's his dream to play with Bronny. Yeah. And it's an unbelievably cool story.
It's a great story.
What do you think? But we can be unfair in the media in terms of hype, expectations, all that. What is actually fair now that the cool story has happened? He's drafted. He's on the team. What's fair for Bronny going forward in terms of expectations?
Look, he's just going to be learning this first year or two, as he should be. And so I expect him to get on the court because of his defense. He's shown the ability to be an on-ball defender. He's a good teammate. He's a willing passer. Guys like him on the rosters that he's been on. And by the way, you're LeBron James' son. You could be standoffish, you could be entitled, and he is none of those things, according to everyone who has played with him. So I think that he's going to start from that base, and then whatever he can develop into offensively, we'll have to see. I mean, LeBron didn't develop offensively into the player he is now. He always came in with the dunks and the high flying and all the other stuff that he did, but he developed his shot through his playing career. So it's okay to expect Bronny to do the same thing.
Were you surprised that they didn't land a bigger name in free agency?
In free agency, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that LeBron, camp let it float that he would have taken less money to open up that mid-level exception. That's not going to get you, the biggest star in the universe, but there were some candidates for that. They were in the Klay discussions. They made a very good offer to Klay. He just decided to go somewhere else. You'd like to see them have a more visible plan B, C, D. They may have behind the curtain, but none of those clearly came true. So now the Lakers front office is a little bit more on the clock because now that we've had this wave of summer movement, the next batch of movement is going to be before the trade deadline. And it's harder to make those trades than it used to be because now with the play-in, there's more teams that still think they're in it later. Yeah. So they're more reluctant to give up on guys and be trading away guys at the deadline. So we'll see. I don't know, but the pressure is still on that Lakers front office.
Yeah, he said they're still a championship caliber team. It feels very unlikely at best in the West.
Here's one thing to notice about the last week. LeBron signed, yes, a 2-year contract, but it was a 1-and-1. It was the second year is at his option. I don't think that's because he's going anywhere. I think that's because he wanted to be able to keep pressure on that Lakers front office. And by the way, we saw him do that big chunks of his career.
Are you a believer in this Team USA team? Because all the news is coming out of it. Like, obviously, they're the favorite they deserve to be. But in terms of like historical dominance.
Yeah. I mean, this is arguably the best team since the Dream Team in terms of collection of talent. Steve Kerr said the other day, he said, I've got every single guy in this roster as a future Hall of Famer. I'm not sure he's wrong. So I think that the talent level is incredible. The rest of the world has gotten better. We keep saying that. They will play some tough games, but this isn't the World Cup last summer where we had a very different team and different group going. This is the all-star of all-star teams, and I think they're going to do great over there.
I was legitimately trying to think about a weakness. So it's like, okay, they've been abused on the boards in the past. Mm-hmm. Well, now Joel Embiid's on the team.
Yeah.
So you have Bam and Joel and Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. Okay, wings can sometimes get hot in international play. It's a different style of ball. Drew Holiday or Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Go lock them down. I don't think Steph or KD will struggle shooting, but but hey, Devin Booker, if they're having off nights, bring him in. Like, is age or is there just no weakness on the team?
I mean, look, they've got Ant. That answers the age question. He's 24 years old. Yeah. I mean, they've got younger guys on there. It's always been a range on the Olympic teams. They've had guys who are kind of elder statesmen, even on the Dream Team. Magic and Larry were kind of elder statesmen at that point, and MJ was the younger, sort of more prominent star. So I think this team is incredible. You look, by the way, at the international style of game. Steph Curry, who's never played for Team USA before, is going to flourish in that sort of, the way that things are played in the Olympics. Kevin Durant, we've seen, has flourished in that environment. So I'm super excited to see this team play. I think during that early round, that round robin, it's going to be a little boring for people. Yeah. But once they get into the quarterfinals and from there, I think it's going to be just fantastic.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. Like, they know that the rest of the country has caught up, so they don't sleepwalk against these teams. Yeah. And there's real, it seems like, motivation of LeBron and Steph wanting to play together. Steph's never won a gold medal. Could be LeBron's last time calling himself a champion. Like, this team's not going to take anyone for granted, or at least they shouldn't.
Kawhi Leonard's never played in a Team USA in the Olympics before. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys who are hungry to get that gold medal. I think they know the opportunity they have. They've seen all the Dream Team pictures. They want to be in those pictures. They want to be in those scrimmages. The scrimmages are going to be incredible, right?
Yeah, I know. I want more social media clips. Like, I want the 30 for 30 happening now. You know what I mean? I want live footage of the practices instead of the games. What did you make of Steph's take on dynasties and that what happened with the Warriors? I don't think he said the last one, but it's going to basically be really, really hard to ever replicate.
Yes. I mean, I've been talking about this ever since we've seen the rise of international players in the game. If you look at the last 5 MVP awards, they've all gone to international players. We have seen international players hit a level and sort of a saturation within the NBA that tells us that the level of talent has risen. If you are just picking from the United States, you only have certain, sort of cross-section of talent. If you are now picking from the entire world, that margin gets a lot tighter. There is more talent at the very, very top elite level because you are picking from hundreds of millions of more people.
Sure.
So because of that, it is harder to have a lopsided team where you become a dynasty, where you are just blowing people off the court the way the Warriors were. And by the way, this collective bargaining agreement is now set up to make it a lot harder they would never be able to say, add Kevin Durant to an already championship team the way they did in 2016 in today's rules with today's CBA. So I think that there's a lot of factors, but he's completely right. It's going to be extremely, extremely hard for anyone to do it again.
Not to get too much into CBA minutia in the NBA, it is complicated, but are there enough mechanisms in place to keep the title teams together? Not necessarily the dynasties, but like smaller markets. I hope that Anthony Edwards can stay on a competitive team in Minnesota. KCP leaving Denver, it's kind of a bummer. Like they're a great team. I'd like to be able to see markets like that, ownership groups like that, keep these guys together. Do you think it's going to work for the smaller markets to be competitive?
I mean, look, I wish Denver had done things a little bit differently, frankly, the past 2 off seasons, because I think that team with Jamal and Nikola Jokic are just set up to be so dazzling. You want them to be able to have more depth, and it is a shame ownership hasn't maybe wanted to pay more or that the management hasn't been able to get it done. I do think, though, it's not a small market issue. The guy who owns the Denver Nuggets owns, 5 different sports teams, is one of the richest people in the world. So it's not really a money thing as much as it is, hey, this is what we want to spend on these teams. And what I thought was interesting is I was in the locker room after the Boston Celtics won the title. There's champagne everywhere. It's bananas. Whit Grossbeck, the owner of the Celtics, was standing there. I started interviewing him, and I was like, okay, championship teams, it's really hard to keep everyone. He was like, we are bringing every single person back. I don't care what it costs. And that's exactly what they have done. And Derek White was expensive, and that's okay.
But now they're up for sale.
Well, I mean, it's an interest. He wants the Mark Cuban deal. He's gonna sell part of the team, stay in control of it for the next 3 years, and then sort of move on a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they were willing to say, okay, we're going to keep this team together. We don't care how expensive it costs because this is our window. It could not happen again for another 15, 20, in some markets, 50 years. We're going to spend the money now.
Who do you think is the best challenger to Boston in the East?
In the East, I think, look, Philadelphia certainly upped its game. I love the fit of Paul George on that team. I just think that it is like hand in glove of playing with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. They all do different things. I think that not only will Paul George be additive to that team in terms of what they can do, I think he will actually multiply Joel Embiid. He is going to help Joel Embiid be better because he's going to take the offensive load partly off of him. He's going to take some of the defensive banging that Joel gets, where everything's focused on him, is now going to have to be split resources for Paul George as well. There's going to be games that Joel misses that he doesn't have to feel so bad about because Paul's going to be there. So I think there are so many factors about Paul George going there that makes Philadelphia now a front runner to challenge the Celtics. I still think the Knicks are very good. I still think Milwaukee is going to have something to say. Giannis also very good. I'm just saying. So, Damian Lillard, very good. So I think we have finally more competitive juice at the top of the East than we've had in a while. I still think the Boston Celtics are the deepest team, and we saw that is what won them the title this year.
Rachel, I will try coffee for you.
Oh, man. Yeah. I like you now after this anyway, so you don't even have to.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.